Thanks for joining us for the 4 o'clock show. It's been a busy day. We'd like to thank Ray Rickman for coming, as he usually does, to give his big view. But I'd like to welcome my next guest here as part of the Ripple Effect. Now, this is the Rhode Island DOT's campaign to raise awareness for impaired driving. Father Joe Escobar, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
So talk with us a little bit how you got brought into this campaign and your own personal story as it pertains to being impacted by impaired driving.
I got brought into it actually by accident. There had been another priest that was contacted because they wanted to have a group of faith leaders for the DOT's Buckle Up Faithfully campaign.
Okay.
And then I got an email inviting me to the meeting, and I told them that I would be happy to go and that I had a personal connection with that, and told them my story about my brother. And then it blossomed from there, that people heard about it and were drawn into it, and so I got invited to do the segment on the Ripple Effect as well.
So talk with us about your brother.
Russell was 31 years old when the accident happened, but he was a young man full of life. He had moved up to Maine, had his own business with drywall work, had his wife and 3 children, and life was going well for him. You know, he was enjoying himself. As I often tell people, we're very different. I was the one who worried about everything. He didn't worry about anything. Fortunately, I caught up with him in the end.
And so how difficult is it for you even now to recount what you had gone through and sharing your experience again as Rhode Island grapples with this issue and the DOT tries to address it? It never gets easier.
No, it doesn't. It's been 24 years, or it'll be 24 years, I should say, in November. But the memories are always there. And, you know, since doing the Ripple Effect and thinking about, you know, if he was here, how life different would be for both of us. He would be 55 now. You know, he died at 31, so he's forever young in my memory. But it would have been curious to see how we would have grown together, and, you know, my interaction with his family and how that would have given my life a very different complexion, you know, as opposed to having lost him and not having contact with his children. So it's made life a little more challenging.
And how has the role as a faith leader, both in your own personal family's experience and seeing this throughout the state, as you mentioned them contacting the faith community to buckle up and addressing the importance and the fragility of life?
I think a lot of people take for granted that, you know, priests, ministers, religious leaders, that our life is more tranquil than theirs, that we don't face difficulties. As a matter of fact, his wife's sister had said to me during the time of Russell's wake and funeral, she said that she was surprised something bad happened to him because I was a priest. And I says, well, being a priest is not an insurance policy that nothing's going to happen to me or anybody in the family. But it is a challenge. I mean, you certainly, I think, have the opportunity to empathize more with people, but also you have that challenge of not letting your feelings override, you know, the role that you have in their lives to be a source of comfort and support, rather than sometimes just sitting and crying right along with them because you're in the same boat. You don't have that luxury, you know, so, but I think that probably the blessing of it is the empathy that it gives you when people go through these things, because you know, or you have a sense of knowing what their struggle is.
And this campaign, again, reaching out with these personal stories, we've had so many. We've had law enforcement here, we've had folks directly impacted, we've had first responders. And again, from that faith perspective, you know, you see these families dealing with loss, dealing with the loss of loved ones. I mean, this is what the DOT is trying to bring awareness to, is to, you know, be able to stop this impaired driving, whether it's the individual making that decision themselves or being around other individuals that you might or see at parties we all see, and say something.
Right, it's a different death than when someone dies from an illness, because you understand the progression of illness and psychologically you're somewhat prepared, you know, for their death. But a death through an accident, being, you know, alcohol related or anything else.
Could bring you a little closer, Father.
Okay. Alcohol related or anything else presents a different level of struggle, because, you know, that someone is culpable because of that. Either the person themselves, as in my brother's case, or in the case of a drunk driver killing an innocent person, as in the case of Patrolman Bork. from Jamestown. So there was a whole nother set of dynamics that plays into the grief process.
And how has this process been working on the ripple effect and talking with folks and, again, telling your story? Is it kind of what you anticipated? Is it bigger than that?
I think a lot of people have been more aware. At least I've had more conversations with people, some who did not know about my situation with my brother, some who just never really stopped to think about how impacted everyone around that person is, and how life changes. And as I often tell people, it's just adjusting to the change. You never really get used to it. You just learn to adjust to things being different than what you knew. And you can turn to other things for comfort, but they're not going to comfort you. But our faith gives us that comfort of knowing, that they're at peace with God, and one day we'll be together again. And then we can ask those questions we haven't been able to ask.
And again, in the role of being the faith leader, is that how you see it as well? Bringing in folks who might be troubled, who might be struggling with addiction, might be struggling with other issues that then result in obviously some unfortunate circumstances. How much do you see that in the community of folks coming in and just, Father, whether it's your church or somebody else, saying, I've got to put this in the hands of somebody else to help.
One of the good things is there are a lot of 12-step programs available, and in my parish we have one every morning from 7 to 8 a.m. It's called Breakfast with Bill. It's an AA meeting. And the times that I have seen, the people there, they're the whole spectrum of ages, they're the whole spectrum of professions, and they realize they can't do it on their own, that there isn't anything else out there than, as the 12-step program says, turning your life over to the care of your higher power, whatever that may be. We have a personal, name for that, being God, being Jesus. But, whatever their understanding of their higher power is, it's comforting for them to know that their life is in the hands of someone, greater than them.
Well, I appreciate your coming in from that faith perspective, because you've seen it from all angles. You've lived through it. You counsel people. You see them at AA. And again, as part of this broader effort just to raise awareness around impaired driving and the impact it has. And as you said, people didn't know your story.
Right.
And now, lots of folks have these stories and are impacted. And the purpose of this campaign is to, again, have folks think about that decision, be able to be active, to be able to maybe take the keys from someone, get an Uber. But because this is a ripple, it affects everybody.
Right, that encouragement to, just one more, is not a good encouragement.
No. And we wanted to have you in here again because, again, you see it from all angles. You've seen it from all angles. And, of course, that difficult, the untimely deaths from that faith perspective. Anything else you want to share with viewers while you're in here about this campaign, about your story, about the bigger story?
I would just encourage people not to be afraid, as you just said, to speak to someone who shouldn't take the wheel, who shouldn't be driving. Nowadays, there's apps that you can use to get transportation to and from, or if there's a friend who can drive you home, then it's not embarrassing to let them do that. It's actually, a very great act of concern and care for the person when they offer to do that. So I think we need to let go of that sense of I'm always in control and realize that sometimes we're not. And the best thing is to let somebody else help us.
And more ways than one, whether it's you're out and about or you're looking to get some help from your local religious leaders. Well, Father Joe, I appreciate your taking the time to come in today, sharing your story. Again, as part of the Ripple Effect and the Rhode Island DOT, I want to thank Dante Bellini and RDW for providing the series here again as the state continues to look to raise awareness about the impact of impaired driving. Father Joe, thank you for your time
you're very
today.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'll let you go around the corner, and I'm going to
Okay.
wrap up here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. It's been a busy day. Kicked off this morning with John Della Volpe up at Harvard. Social Sphere pollster giving the latest statewide polling results. You can read all about them on GoLocalProv.com. 3 o'clock was at the Rhode Island State House talking about civil asset forfeiture, marijuana, and some transparency in government. And then, of course, at the 4 o'clock hour, we had Ray Rickman, former state representative and deputy secretary of state, Father Joe Escobar, giving his personal story and role in the ripple effect the DOT's campaign to raise awareness for impaired driving. We appreciate your tuning in. We appreciate your feedback. Of course, lots on GoLocalProv.com right now. More to come tomorrow pertaining to the statewide poll as all eyes are on 2018. We look forward to seeing you back on Go Local Live. I'm Go Local News Editor Kate Nagel.